We'll start in a few more minutes until more people join in. So, We'll start now. I think we'll, I hope I'm sharing my screen. I hope it's visible. Um, So we'll start now. So for this week, we have so for this week we will do classes and objects. So this is week 7. So I will just go through briefly through the concepts today, and I think with that mostly would be done with the entire course. I think next week only dynamic programming is given. So yeah, so let's start with this classes and objects concept. So basically, like in any object-oriented programming um, um, programming language, for example, Python is also you can do an object-oriented programming in Python also. So you can create similarly like things like classes and all. Idea here is that, for example, uh, how do I do that? So for people who have already know what is class and what is not, you know that for each class there is some internal within a class you can define variables, internal variables and methods, which are basically functions within those class. So for example, if I want to create a simple class like this class, which is my class, where the internal variable is x equal to 5, I can simply do that. Now I can create an object from that class. For example, p1 equal to my class, and so that is creating an object of class of type my class, and then I can access the internal variable dot x from that. So I can just do p1 dot x. So if you remember in the previous classes, we also discussed about this init function briefly, sort of. So the examples init function uh, like all classes, you can have some kind of init function like this, which is always executed when the class is being initiated. So basically, if I define something like this, init and all, this function will always get executed. So let's say I create a class of sort of named person, and within that I define the init function where we have the corresponding properties like cell dot name equal to name and cell dot age equal to age. Now if I do person John and 36 as the name and age properties, and if I print this thing p1 dot name and p1 dot age, it will return me back John and 36. So so this is like the sort of examples as you can see. So now we'll also discuss about objects methods actually. So objects can also contain methods. Methods, as I mentioned, are like functions that belong to the object. So for example, this was initially my method variables, but I can also have something called methods function itself. So def my function itself print hello my name is this thing. So if I use this same thing here, it would just print me hello my name is John. So because this function would get executed because of I'm calling my function. So I hope up till this point things are clear. Um, yeah. So there are like in object coding. So I will just go through the remaining questions also. But before that, just briefly discuss about inheritance and polymorphism and all those things, which are again uh, used in other object-oriented programming languages like Java and all. So those things would also be utilized here. We'll go through that in step by step. Got So what is a self parameter that I was using here in this case? For which was in this case self dot name equal to age, self dot age equal to age. So the self parameter is like a reference to the current instance of the class only, and is used to access the variables that only belongs to that class. It does not need to be named as self. You can call whatever you like, but it has to be the first parameter of any function in the class. So basically, if I want to just, uh, for example, any instance I create of this class, if I want to access that corresponding variable of that instance, I just need to use self dot name or something. So that's the criteria, and yeah. So so for example, if I want to, let's say, modify the object properties, for example, age I already defined as passed as 36, but later on I want to modify it as 40. So I can just simply do person one dot age equal to 40. So I was defining initially a variable of person with name John and age 36, but I can simply uh, assign a new value to the age property. I can also delete the property also, like for example, del of p1.h. Basically, it will delete the property, and if I want to access it after this, I won't be able to access. So you can also delete the objects totally itself using the del keyword, which is this one, and so on. So we just go to the inheritance part now. Any questions till now? I think maybe we could go once or two years. So there is a question in the chat. I think regarding the NPTEL exam, do we have programming codes and assignments too, or only quiz too? Yeah, so it will be a combination of both. It will have programming codes, but a simpler version of the assignment codes. But I think just to get the output, I think you won't need to write the code and submit the code. It's just that output that you need. Okay. Any questions till now in the class of this definition? Please share in the chat. Okay. I think we can go ahead. Then. Um, so, for example, if I want to create a parent class, so what is basically inheritance means? Basically, you have child parent class you can create, whether your child inherits some of the properties from the parents. So, for example, I do class person, and I have some properties like cell dot first name and cell dot last name, and then I print. I mean, this function just prints them. And let's say I do person John as first name and Joe as last name. And if I do just do extra print, it will just print me the first name and last name. Now I can create a child's class, but I can just do class student of type person. So it will basically inherit the properties and methods from person. And I just add a pass statement here because we use the pass keyword because when you do not want to add any other properties or methods to the class. So for example, x equal to student Mike or Olsen. If I do x dot print name, I will get Mike and Olsen as the output. So far, we have created a child class that inherits the properties and methods from its parents. We want to add the init function to the child class also instead of the pass keyword. So you can simply you can redefine the init function like this. So when you add the init function, the child class will no longer inherit the parents init function. So since you are adding a new init function right now under the student class, so whatever properties you add there, it will be accessed further on. So any properties that you were previously using from the parents properties, we won't be, so you're actually overwriting sort of. So that's why you would get like you won't inherit the properties of the parents anymore. So the child's inherit function overrides the inheritance of the parents inherit function. So to keep the inheritance of the parents inherit function, you just need to add a call to the parents inherit function. So you simply do person, which was the parent class, dot init thing. So it would basically make a call to that. So adding this thing or adding a past thing is both the same thing. So that's the idea. You can also add extra properties after this line. So basically, your child now has new properties, but also inherits the properties from the parents. So you can also use something called super function. So Python also has a super function that will make the child class inherit all the methods and properties from its parents. So you can just simply do super dot init. That's all. So by using super, you do not have to use the name of the parent element. It will automatically inherit the methods and properties from its parents. And now you can also add new sort of properties. For example, graduation age and all, which is not there in the person property, person class. So if I just do this, which is student Mike Olson and 2019, it should bring me the corresponding ones. All right. So that's an exercise. What do you think would be the correct answer here? What is the correct keyword to use in the empty class to avoid getting an error? Yeah, it's the correct. Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people have answered the correct answer. So our correct answer is pass. Right. So okay. So let's go to the question now. Um, so now we will look at something called function polymorphism, and basically this is also something useful in object-oriented class programming. So yeah. So the previous question, the correct answer is pass. Okay, so we'll look at function polymorphism. So basically, what polymorphism basically means many forms, and in programming it refers to the methods and functions or operators with the same name that can be executed on many objects or classes. So basically, an example of a function polymorphism would be something like example of a Python function that can be used on different objects. For example, the len function, which is basically the length of the thing of a particular object. So for strings, you can simply len basically means returns a number of characters. For example, this thing would actually count how many characters are there in the particular string hello world. For tuple, it would return the number of items in the tuple. So this should return me three because I have three items in the tuple. For dictionary, it would return me the number of key value pairs in the tuple. So here it will also return me three. So basically, I can use the same len function, but depending upon what object I pass into the len function, I get different functionalities or different value. So, so that's a classic example of function polymorphism. And now we'll look at something called class polymorphism. And this is super important because these questions, many exam questions actually are mostly set to polymorphism questions. So look at a simple example. So polymorphism is often used in class methods where we can have multiple classes but with the same method name. For example, let's say we have three classes: car, boat, and plane, and they all have a method called move. So let's say I define a class car. I define the corresponding method inside it, which is init function, where self.brand is set to brand, self.model is set to model, and I have another method which is move. So basically it means drive. For class board, I have the same thing, same init function, and I have the same move function itself, but within that I print a different thing. I print sale. Similarly for plane, I have everything similar, but only the print is like. So now I pass this thing card one equal to create an object card one of class card with brand Ford and name Mustang, boat one with of class boat with brand Ibiza and the model 2020 and plane of Boeing and 747. So now if I do for each x in car one, boat one, and plane one, and I print this function x dot move, it should give me first for this thing. It should give me drive and then sail and then flight. So basically, I'm using the same function if you see here under different classes, but I'm printing different things based upon which class type I'm using the function with it. So this is basically an example of class polymorphism. And there is also this thing called inheritance class for polymorphism. So what about classes with child classes with the same name? Basically, can we use polymorphism there? For example, if we use the same example which was above and make a parent class called vehicle and make car, boat, plane child classes of vehicle. So it makes sense because all three are like a type of vehicle itself. So I can create a parent class vehicle and all car, boat, and plane would be like child classes of vehicle, and the child class inherits the vehicle methods, and but you can also override them. So I define this thing class vehicle self dot brand equal to brand, self dot model equal to model, and I have the move function as screen move. Now for child class car of parent vehicle, I can just simply add pass because my by default function is already move on. For class board, I can override the function move to print cell, and for similarly for class plane. Now if I do the same thing, it would give me the same thing. So it's like inherited class polymorphism where each class here are like child classes which you inherit from the parent class vehicle, and you add polymorphism where you override the function for each class separately. So now going to other question, is it true or false? So one object cannot have a method with the same name as another object's method. So is this true or false? One in the chat.
రెండు విండోలు పెట్టి చేస్తాను అసలు రెండు విండోలు పెట్టాను
Sorry, could you repeat once more?
అసలు వాయిస్ ఏం వినపడుతుంది సైడ్ నుంచి రాలేదు.
Could you repeat once more? Like you couldn't hear. Hello. Yeah, the correct answer is false only because it's obvious because you can move with the same name. So there was a if you are speaking, please can you speak up once more? I wasn't able to hear you. There is some question I think in the chat, like Arshi has her hand up. Do you want to speak? Ask anything? Hello. Yatnesh, do you have any question? Do you want to repeat your question once more? Okay. Right. So I think we can go ahead then. So we already discussed scopes, I think, last week. So we won't go back to scope once more. We'll do a few questions sort of, and then probably I will bring it to an end. So on classes, let's see. So I'm sharing a link here in the chat. I would ask everyone to just try this out. So it has everything around. You can try the first um, 7 questions, seven, eight, nine. There are I think 10 questions in the first page. So you can try all of them now in during the class itself, just to see like what you are able to do. And then we can the rest of them you can do it on your own as a homework sort. So just to give you a flavor of what sort of class topics, like clearing out fundamental doubts and all. So I would suggest you to look through this thing. So I've shared this here. Uh, so please, once you have some answers, please type in the chat. We'll look through them. So I hope you're solving your questions on the that I've shared in the chat. Um, Please feel free to share the answer solutions also to chat if you have any answer that is coming up. The question one and so what is so please explain question one and question seven. So what is a class in Python? So basically, is it like a uh, like when you define a class, what it basically does it mean? Is it like a function or is it like a block of code or something? So that's the question. And question seven is basically what is the role of the call method in the class? So we didn't discuss call method. Basically, you can sort of create a like sort of like um, the instance that you create for a particular class, you can utilize that to be called as functions. So yeah, so for the questions I think which are uh, not in the sort of part of what we discussed, you can skip them. But for the other questions, you can try it, and if you know it, like it's better. But yeah. Okay, I think we are able to solve to that. I think for today's class, I think there is not much to discuss. I think mostly classes and objects we already discussed. To the concepts, I highly suggest you to, because I have already shared some previous resources to some quiz problems and all. So, for example, Geeks for Geeks and W3 Schools and all has a good quality of quizzes you should practice. I think mostly these are the counter type questions you would expect in actual exam also. So that's why practicing this kind of questions would be helpful, as well as some of the properties about class morphism and all, polymorphism and all, might be quizzed on those kind of problems where you probably given sort of like a coding problem where you are as for each parent class, let's say you have some variable assigned, and then you are asked, let's say, a method in the child class you are modifying, what value it should be. So basically, the fundamentals that you need to cover. So I think that's the main ideas. All right.